In this lesson, we're going to be talking about the use of Sulley. Now, Sulley is actually named for the big blue monster in Monsters, Inc. And it's called that because Sulley is fuzzy and this is a fuzzer. Now, Sulley is actually a Python thing. Instead of the XML that we were using with Peach, we're actually going to be using Python here. And I've got a little thing here that I have written for Sulley. And this is in Python again. Sulley is similar in a way to Peach because they're both based around the idea of creating these blocks and using those blocks to generate actual fuzzers to the server or the application that you're trying to work with here. What I've got here is I've got some Python that's actually going to make use of Sulley. I am initializing something here called hello, and that's going to be my block, and my block here is just a string. And I've got another one here called ehlo, and then mail from RCP2 data, all of the SMTP commands that we're used to doing. The first thing I need to do is I need to set up a target. And my target is going to be my mail server here that's running locally. That's on port 25. Now, I've got a network monitor that theoretically I should be setting up here, and I'll get that set up in just a little bit. I've also got some other options for manipulating the service and starting and stopping it. That's really useful for some target control where if Sulley actually generates a crash, it can restart the service for you and then just keep going. Now down here is where I actually get into creating the session and actually doing the fuzzing work. I've got a session here and I'm doing a connect with the hello block and then the alo block, and then I'm doing some combinations down here. Now, down here I've got the add target where I'm adding my session target, and then I'm actually just calling fuzz. The first thing here I'm going to do is I'm going to run the network monitor. I'm going to dump that into the background. And actually, I need to specify the device that I'm going to use. So I'm going to say device 1, and now I'm going to dump it into the background. That's awaiting requests. And now I can run my Sulley script, which is going to be mail.py. We've created apparently 8,608 total cases, and it looks like we've generated case 1 and ran into a bit of an error here. And I'd have to go take a look at the log and see what actually happened and see why we created that error. Actually, now we've just generated a bunch of errors because we were unable to connect to the network monitor. So it looks like the network monitor stopped. But the important thing here is that you're writing Python and you're using Sulley as your framework to generate these fuzzing scripts. And maybe it's not quite as easy as Peach in terms of conceptualization. You have to understand how Sulley actually operates and gets the session put together and does all of the target control and acquisition. But it does have a pretty significant amount of power in terms of that target control and being able to monitor and see what's actually happening. That is really one of the really important things about fuzzing is you can't just blast a bunch of data at a particular target. You've got to take a look at the target and see what the data that you've generated, how it actually interacts with the server, and what it causes the server to do. You'll know if you get a crash, you'll know which test case actually generated that crash. Knowing that you got a crash out of 8,600 requests doesn't really help you a lot. You really need to know which request actually generated the crash so that you can dig a little deeper and see what's going on.